Hello, everyone. And today I want to talk a little bit about remodding your entire roster. Now, this is something that I don't do very often, only when the meta shifts in a pretty big way. The last time I'd done something like this was back when Jedi Knight Revan was released, shortly after, and now with the Darth Revan being released, I uh, I felt it was time for me to remod my whole roster. And so just before this last 5v5 Grand Arena locked, because that's just about the time that I'd got Darth Revan to G12 and I could move my best mods to him. That's when I decided to go ahead and remod my whole roster. So this is just an exercise that I've done 2, 3 days ago. But yesterday in my video, in my Grand Arena video, when I briefly spoke about it, a lot of you had reached out to me asking me how I'd gone about doing that and my approach to it. So I thought I'll make a quick video to talk about what I like to think about when remodding my whole roster, and hopefully this will be a useful guide with tips and tricks for you guys. Um, and Yep, let's just go ahead and get to it. So what I did was I spent a couple of hours today creating a brief graphic. So let me talk about that. All right. So this is what the graphic looks like. What I'm going to talk about over here is when you feel the need to completely remod your roster because either of a meta shift or whether you've got certain teams that you've leveled up and you want to re-gear them, or you just want to move your mods around because you're not satisfied with them. This is the order in which I go through, and this is something which has helped me do it the 3 or 4 times that I've done it in the past. So hopefully it'll be something helpful to you as well. So I'll talk about each of the sections that I've created over here and the sequence that I usually go in which to remodel the roster. So the first thing I do is, and just to tell where I use these characters after I remod them, is this is purely for a PvP environment, which is Grand Arena and Territory Wars. For Arena, I have a completely different set of mods that I like to use on maybe 6 or 7 characters, depending on which team I'm climbing with. But that's a completely different mod set that I have for that, and I sometimes tweak those more frequently. But the one that I have for all the characters that I need to put in for Grand Arena and Territory Wars, that's a completely different set, and that's the exercise that I'm talking about right now. So the very first thing that I do is I get a feel for what teams I'm about to I would like to place on defense, and and first and foremost try to get my very best mods on them. And I'm not talking about all the teams. I'm talking about some certain premium teams. So there are 1 or 2 teams which I feel would, if modded right, would give a real problem to the opponent, either by forcing them to take in a really strong meta team to counter it, or having them uh, go multiple times in unsuccessful attempts to take it down. So I try to identify 1 or 2 teams that I have to absolutely move my best mods to, regardless of the mods on the other characters. And this I for this particular Grand Arena, and after Darth Revan came out, I felt that my best mods had to move to Darth Revan and the Sith Empire team, and to Nightsisters. And the reason for that is, there are a couple of reasons for that. One is Darth Revan is absolutely the meta right now. um, it's not as difficult to take down as Jedi Knight Revan when it came out, but Darth Revan, the counter to Darth Revan involves Emperor Palpatine, Traya, and sometimes another Darth Revan team itself, or Jedi Knight Revan. So that is one team which pulls in the best meta teams from your opponent's roster, and for that reason, I strongly feel that if you have Darth Revan, you should keep it on defense, even though it's always a piece of cake on offense. So my very first thing that I like to do is I like to move my very best mods, 6E mods, onto my Darth Revan team. And the 4 that I have over here is Darth Revan, where for which I move my very best speed mods. Basti is pretty fast as well. I've got a speed set on her. HK47 has got my best offense mods, the ones which used to belong to Grandmaster Yoda before. Now I've moved them on to HK. And Sith Trooper has got really good tenacity and defense and protection mods. Defense is actually something that he doesn't need, but I've kept some. I kept a lot of tenacity on him. I think I've got him at about 130 or 140% tenacity just to make it tough for Vader to land dots. And for the fifth, I really don't have a good Sith Empire character geared up. My Marauder and Assassin are both G9 or so. So I've just left these four for now, and I leave it floating for the fifth character. I either go with um, Thrawn or Nest or Scion, depending on my opponent. But these are the four that I've moved my very best mods to. The second team that I wanted to move my really best premium mods on is Nightsisters. Now, with Darth Revan coming out, and I've spoken about this briefly in my previous video as well, with Darth Revan coming out, EP is now being pulled more and more to counter Darth Revan. And if you set a board where you've got both Darth Revan as well as your Nightsisters in there, your EP is most likely going to be used to counter Darth Revan unless they have their own Darth Revan or Jedi Knight Revan on board. But if EP is being used to counter Darth Revan, then that's one less strong counter to the Night Sisters, and that means that you would need to take in a really strong team like again Treya or CLS or Jedi Knight Revan to counter the Night Sister team. Most people don't have the Django team built up. A well zetaed and well modded Django bounty hunter team can counter Night Sisters effectively, but the Asajj lead Night Sister team, especially well geared and well modded, can cause a lot of problems on defense. Just in the last Grand Arena, my opponent took four tries to get down my Asajj lead. Troopers failed, and he had pretty good troopers as well, and a few other counters also failed. And this is one team which I think is going to be permanently on my defense fixture now. The kind of mods that I've put on the Night Sister team is I've kept all of them almost at 220 to 255 speed, which is pretty good for them before the speed bonus of 30 that Asajj gives them. Asajj is fully loaded with offense. Asajj and Spirit loaded with critical damage and offense secondaries. Uh, Spirit is at 73% critical chance. Daka has got full 16% health, 60 mods at 55 or 60k health, I think, with pretty decent speed, 254 speed. Zombie again is at 250 speed and really good secondaries as well. And Talzin has about almost 7,000 special damage with about 230, 240 speed as well. So a really strong, well modded team. It can get pretty tough for the opponent to take out. So the concept I'm trying to explain over here is that uh, it could be one team, it could be three teams that you can decide that you want to really mod them extremely strong across the board for defense. Those could be your premium defense teams that you first and foremost mod and shift all your best mods there, and hopefully those will either pull a really strong counter or end up giving you some holes. So that's the very first thing I do when I am when I remod my whole roster. The second thing is there are certain characters that you really need to speed up. Excuse me. And these are and a lot of people when they mod their rosters for Grand Arena or TW, a lot of these characters do get the best speed sets. But I just wanted to go through my thinking about which characters I like to keep on with my faster speed set mods after giving my two premium teams the best mods. A lot of these characters are most characters that people already have very well geared for speed for any TW or Grand Arena. Thrawn is one of my favorites, especially with the Darth Revan meta now. Really fast Thrawn helps to control the battle in any battle, whether it's a Darth Revan team or Jedi Knight Revan team. Thrawn really helps to is one of the best all-round tools who helps to control the battle. So I have my Thrawn at about 300, 305 speed, I believe. Nest is again another character which really benefits from speed. In the new Darth Revan meta, when if you plug in a really strong Nest, say maybe at 300 speed or so, you land days, and EP counter becomes all that more difficult just so that just so that just because you've got a nest in there with a very high speed. Similarly, in a Darth Revan environment, Vader has now become increasingly important as well. If you're able to go with EP Vader and a Sith trio team, pronunciation. So if you're able to get with these characters against a Darth Revan team, and you have a really fast Vader, and you're able to do a force crush before the enemy moves and throw the culling blade, you're able to dispel a lot of debuffs and give turn meter to your whole team. So that's why I specifically remodeled my Vader for a lot of potency and with a speed set to reach speeds of about 250, which with the bonus that he gets without a Sith and with EP would reach about 300, 305 speed. So that's a pretty speedy Vader as well. And he is, in my opinion, the next most important in to mod for speed. And then I've kept my next best speed mods on Darth on my Jedi Knight Revan. He doesn't have the best mods. He's still at about 280, 290. He's not as fast as he used to be before Darth Revan. I used to have him at 315 or so. But um, he gets a huge speed bump, about 30 to 40 speed bump with four other Jedi's with him. So that can help to offset even if you have him at a somewhat lower speed of 280 or 290. So that's so my next best speed set goes on Jedi Knight Revan. Some of the other characters over here, people already are familiar with and usually do have really good speed sets on them. Bosk is very important for you to go really fast, um, whether under Bosk lead or under Django lead. If you have a boss go fast and especially a double zeta boss go fast and set up taunt, it becomes the number of options that the opponent has to counter it, it drastically reduces if you have a fast boss. So that's the next character I like to put my next best speed sets on. I used to have him at about 300 speed. I've after the reshuffling of my mods, I've dropped him down to about 280 speed or so, just because I plan to run him with Django lead, which adds another 30 speed. So that would effectively get my boss to 310 speed, which I think is good enough. So that's the story of Bosk. And you'll notice that the characters in the second row over here, they're all the engines of their own factions, and they're the guys who go ahead and give a lot of turn meter or just get the train rolling for that faction. So whether you're keeping them on defense or offense, having these guys really fast can really get your whole faction going. And the second one over here is obviously the Kylo Ren, and I really like to have my Kylo Ren pretty fast at around 260 270 speed, so that effectively after crew lead he gets to under about 290 300 speed. And with that, the very first move that Kylo Ren does on AI control is his AOE, which gives I believe 20 or 25% turn meter to all first order. So that gets the rest of your team going as soon as possible. So that's an important character to have fast as well. You have Veers who sorry, this is Stark. So you have Stark who, if you get pretty fast at around 260, 270, 280, if you get him that high, he gets another 20 speed bump from Veer's lead, and that could get the troopers rolling really fast. The very first move that you can do on offense is the AOE buff, and that gives ends up giving turn meter to all the troopers, and your whole team ends up going much before the enemy. So Veers is also a very important tune to have pretty fast. If you're using Evox on offense especially, it's important to have Paplu really fast. He automatically gets a 25% speed bump when he's not taunting. So if you have your Paplu at 200 speed, which is reasonably easy to do, you should be able to have a speed of effectively 250. So if you get him up to 220, for example, he would be at 270 or so, which is a very decent speed to have on Paplu and will allow your Evox to outspeed most teams on defense. What I like to do with Paplu is then call assist from Logray, and under uh, Sherpa lead, all Evox get 10% whenever they turn meter whenever they use their basic. So Logre gets 10% and hopefully gets to go next. And he in turn can use a special which gives 20% turn meter to all your Evox, and all of them get to go next, and you can basically help to control your opponents. So those are the few characters, which really, the top two rows that I have, which really need good speed for you to get a leg up. A few other characters, I've listed a total of 16 over here, who need really good speed sets and who need to be fast. Obviously, you'll be using your JTR team on offense quite a lot, and BB-8, having a speedy BB-8 helps to jumpstart that team as well. I have my Leia at about 273 speed as well, and I like to use her under an Akbar lead, which gives another 25 speed bump. So I can have my Leia going at 298 speed effectively, and if I use it with a C3PO team, I that basically helps me to get Leia under stealth at the very beginning of the game, and I like to use that particular team. Admiral Akbar, Leia, and C3PO, Scatter Rebel Pathfinder against other teams which don't have a dispel, so who can't dispel Leia's stealth. That way, it allows me to control the battle really well and just snipe from under stealth. So that's a really good character that you can have who can be speedy. And for any Jedi team that you have on offense, especially if you're running Bastila, having a fast Grandmaster Yoda, not Grandmaster, having a fast Hermit Yoda helps to get the train, helps to get your Jedi on the offensive much faster. Rex is also a good tune to have a really fast speed at. I currently I used to have Rex at about 220 speed or so, but after the remodding exercise, I currently have him at about 250 speed. Um, Almost any opponent that you face will end up critting, and that means that even if they're faster than 250, your Rex will end up going next, and you can immediately put Tenacity up and have your whole team go next. So even if you're going up against a much faster team than yours, just by putting in Rex, you just have the opponent go one turn, and then the rest of the turns are going to be yours. This is really good against other debuff heavy teams like Karth or EP or other teams like that. Karth is another character who's it's important to have fast. Now, typically you run Karth with Canderous, Mission, Zalbar, and one more, maybe Juhani or some people like to run Nest as well. But if you're not running Nest, and that team is typically pretty slow to start with, and your opponents can get a jump on you if they have a faster character. Um, a lot of people like to go Evox against them or JTR against them. So in order to offset some of that advantage, it's good to have your Karth a little bit fast. You can, with decent mods, get him up to, I believe, 260, 265. I currently have him at about 250 or so, but he is a good character to really have a little bit higher in speed, because the other characters are really not that fast, and you don't really need speed on most of them, like Mission or Candrass and all of them. Um, so at least one person in that team should be decently fast, and I choose to have Karth in that team who's fast. Scion is another character who, especially going against Jedi, you need Scion to come up fast and dispel a lot of buffs. So I like to have my Scion decently speeded as well, about 265, 270. I know people can get Scion much higher as well, but after putting your best speed mods on some of the characters on top over here, I was just left with some um, not that great speed mod, so I can just get him to about 265, 270, which I think should be enough for most offensive purposes. I use Sion mostly with my Treya team, and Treya I like to keep on offense. So 265 is fine to keep on offense. Kira is another team where they do have a pre-taunter in L3, but I like to keep my Kira at least at 250 speed. Having a speedy is quite beneficial to that team, because that team also is a little slow to start off with. They do have additional protection in the form of L3's pre-taunt, but I think 250 is a decent amount of speed for Kira. And finally, I also keep my separatist team under General Grievous on defense a lot of the time, and having a really fast um, B1 battle droid is pretty effective. He gets a lot of the bonus turn meter from B2 and in general from his unique as well. So having him be pretty fast naturally will help make your team tougher to defeat. So that's basically how I use my speed sets. I take my 16 best speed sets or 16 best secondaries and put it on these characters in this particular order, with my fastest being going to Thrawn and Nest, and finally ending up with Kira and B1. So that's how I use my speed sets. After so the, for my remodding exercise, first I mod my premium defense teams, then I put my best speed sets on these characters who I think need to be the fastest, and then I go over and mod my damage tunes, my DPS tunes. And there are two categories over here that I like to think about in terms of modding characters for crit damage. There are those who need speed, and there are those who don't need speed and can just get away with good offense. In the category of those who don't need speed, um, and different people have different ways of modding these characters, but my personal preference is to mod these guys with maximum offense and not really as much speed. Mission, since she assists a lot, I have her modded primarily for damage. A little bit of critical chance because I think she can use that stuff. And But mostly all primaries are offense primaries, with the exception of the triangle, which is crit damage, and as high offense secondaries as I can find. So most of these characters that you see over here are critical damage set with the critical chance set as well, and with the offense primaries on all the arrows, um, and on the cross as well. And and in some cases there are some differences. For example, the I like to keep a second set of health on Fox instead of critical chance, although he can use the critical chance as well. For Candra's, for example, if you're planning to run him under Karth, he doesn't need potency just because he gets a lot of it from his teammates. So I like to mod him um, for critical chance and critical damage with highest secondaries, and he gets a lot of turn meter every time a dot. Based enemy is damaged, so I don't really need speed on him. Similarly, Resistance Trooper is another character who gets a lot of turn meter on expose. You don't need any speed on him. Snow Trooper as well. In fact, all three troopers that I've mentioned over here, Snow Trooper, Death Trooper, and Range Trooper, just being in a Veers and Stark team, they get so much turn meter that you can mod them purely for damage and they'll be just fine. Veers and Stark I like to mod with some speed. Stark obviously being the fastest, Veers being the second fastest. Those guys I don't rely on that much for damage. These three are the main damage dealers in my team. And finally, I have Visas, who I typically like to use her against a Sith team, or some, and mostly with Rex and Wampa. So she assists a lot, and she can use a little speed, but I usually like to mod her with offense as well, critical damage and offense. So those are some characters that I've laid out over here who can get away with not having speed and just having some good offense and crit damage sets. Now, the other section over here, my other DPS characters, what I do is after I've modded my premium defense teams and I've modded my speed tunes, I come over here and I take a look at my best critical damage and critical chance mods that I have left over, and I put them on these high damage tunes. My most important tune is in this category is CLS. I need CLS to be really fast and hard hitting. CLS, Han and Chewie are a really good counter to a lot of teams, and it's a top meta team in terms of offense. So I like to keep my CLS very fast. I since it's a critical damage set and not a speed set, I'm not able to get him as fast as the other characters that I talked about before. But I still like to keep him at least 275 or so, with with decent secondaries on both speed as well as offense. So he gets my best critical damage mods in terms of speed. Jedi Training Ray is also a very strong offensive Toon, and she gets my next best critical damage mods with speed because she can benefit from speed quite a lot as well. Boba, so he's whether under Django lead or under boss lead, having a fast Boba is pretty effective. He can go fast, apply mass ability block, and really help to control the team. And so that's so he gets my next best sets. Wampa I use quite a lot to solo weak teams, and these days for the last Grand Arena I've been keeping him on defense as well. So I've really modded him with I've kept him about 230 speed and about 4,300 offense. So I've really modded him pretty solidly with good critical damage set. And I use Ezra. He's my primary damage dealer under a Basti team. So Ezra gets really good crit damage sets as well with speed because he can also use a little speed. The other three characters over here on this line, Grandmaster Yoda, um, Han and Chewie, they don't need as much speed. I put really good critical damage sets on them and some amount of speed because I don't want them too slow. You can go either way. You can go crit damage on these guys or a really good offense set if you have any spare ones lying around. Uh, for Han, I would prefer a critical damage set, but for Chewie and Grandmaster Yoda, you can't go wrong even with a good offense set. But I prefer crit damage on these guys. They don't need to be that fast. Grandmaster Yoda generates his own turn meter. Chewie goes ahead and assists a lot as well. So you can get away with modding them similar to how these guys are modded. But I like a little speed on these guys, especially if I'm keeping them on defense. And some other characters that I've kept over here that I sometimes mod for my next best critical damage sets with good speed are my two prepared scoundrels, young Lando and young Han. I keep my Kira-led prepared scoundrels on defense quite a lot. In fact, almost every time. And these two guys are the main attackers of that team. So in order for that team to be successful on defense, I need these guys to have really good critical damage sets with good offense and speed. You can't have these guys too slow. I like to keep my Lando at about 220, 225, and my Han also around 230 or so. So they're decent speeds with pretty good crit damage sets with offense secondaries. So that's how I like to mod them. And once prepared is spread around, these guys hit really, really hard. So they're a good asset to have. And then finally, I've kept a couple of other characters over here. Greedo, who helps in a bounty hunter team, and Acolyte, who I sometimes use in a four-person different faction team where she can go into stealth right at the beginning and then start sniping because she constantly stays in stealth. So I like to mod my Acolyte pretty decently as well. So that's basically talking a little bit about the crit damage, which is the next step after the speed sets. And then there are certain characters who I use health sets on, and these are health sets with really really good speed. Now there are plenty of events which give out a lot of health mods. So over a period of time, I've developed quite a lot of these health mods, and quite a few of them have rolled some good speed secondaries. So those are perfect mods to use on characters like these. And my fastest health mods, the ones which are 6E, in fact, um, I give to my crew because it's really important for me to have him extremely fast. So I have my crew at about 270 speed, usually 260 to 270, with all health mods, not a single speed mod or any other mod on him. All health mods and all health primaries, 16% on everything except the speed arrow and the triangle, which I like to keep critical damage. But both the circle and the cross, I like to keep health percentage on that. But actually, correction for crew. For crew, I like to keep tenacity on the cross because tenacity is one mod, one figure which is really good for crew. He really both crew and Kylo really benefit a lot from tenacity. If you're not able to control them basically that well, if you have them modded with tenacity, so that's one exception that I make. But otherwise, only health mods to get crew to about 260 270 is my goal. The next fastest mods go to Jolie. Now, I forgot to mention my crew is I like to keep at about 60k to 62k health. That's usually what I'm able to manage with a tenacity cross and with the with all health sets. Similarly, my Jolie, I like to keep him at about 220 to 230. It's not the fastest Jolie. When I used to run Jedi Knight Revenant Arena, my Jolie used to be about 240 with about 60k health. But in this new meta, I'm running Jolie with about 220k, 220 speed with about 53, 54k health, which is good enough for keeping on defense in Grand Arena and for offensive purposes because the Jedi Knight Revan team is already pretty good by themselves. The next faster speed mods I like to keep on my Vando Chewie. Now, as I mentioned, my prepared team, I like to keep them on defense quite a lot, and Vando is a very important component of that. The faster he goes, the faster he's able to get buffs, and the faster he gets prepared. So having good and he benefits a lot from health sets. He's got a bonus which gives him 80% more health and reduces his protection by a large amount. So he benefits a lot from having good health, similar to Crew, who gains 8% health back when he gets attacked, and Jolie, who gives 30% of his health back to allies whenever he gives them whenever he gives them any action healing them or anything like that. So these three characters are the most important in my opinion in terms of modding them for health sets with the best speed. And then I have my Grievous, who I like to keep at about 190, 195 speed with all health sets, with the exception of a triangle, which is crit damage. And I like to get my Grievous up to about 58 to 60k health. I'm still missing one fusion furnace of him, a G12 plus mod, but it's pretty important for me to have my Grievous at around 60k health. That's when he starts getting effective, especially because the rest of my Separatist team is G10, G9. I really need my Grievous to be heavy because he's the one who's dealing a lot of damage, and Grievous deals damage based on his max health. So he's the main damage dealer and the main problem causer in this team, and I need him modded with decent health sets for that. The other characters I've meant over here, I've kept over here are get my next best speed sets, my next best health sets with speed, which is not much after modding these four characters on top. I'm not left with many health sets with good speed, so these guys are probably plus 70, plus 80 speed on them, but with all health sets because all these characters are healers and they benefit a lot from health as well, just like the characters above. But the first four that I've mentioned over here, those are the more important ones that you need to get your best health speed sets on. So that's the next thing that I mod for after taking care of the damage. Excuse me. And then there's a couple of other things. You have certain tunes who really benefit a lot from potency, and what I like to do next is for mod for potency. So I have a few characters that I use my best potency sets on, starting with C3PO and ending with Magma in terms of fastest potency sets to slowest. What I do is I need my since I use my C3P on a lot of meta breaking teams, I mod him for at least 250 speed and with all potency sets. So he's at about 130 to 140% potency, including a potency on the cross and all potency sets throughout. And 250 speed is his overall base speed with the potency sets. On top of that, he gets a 20 speed bonus. And if I'm using him under Admiral Akbar, he gets another 25 speed bonus. So effectively, my C3PO, if it's at 250 speed, he ends up being at 295 speed, very close to what my Leia also is, 298 speed. So that really helps the team going really really fast because there are not many defensive teams who are faster than 295. So in my opinion, for potency sets, the best ones I keep it on C3PO. Um, my Sidious, Dark Sidious, who's also Zeta, and he has all ZG12 plus pieces on him as well. He's the next guy that I like to keep my best potency sets on. He benefits a lot from potency just because his max health increases with potency. So he's got a direct benefit from that as well. And with the Zeta, he gets an additional 50% potency, so he can get pretty tanky once he's modded for full potency, and he's naturally fast as well, so you can get him pretty fast up there, just like the next character, Count Dooku. I have him at 273 speed, Count Dooku, and about 265 to 270 speed on Sidious as well. These guys benefit a lot from potency and they have a very high base potency as well. My Count Dooku, in fact, is at 140% potency, um, running a full potency set with a potency cross as well and with maximum speed set on them. And the reason for that is I use my Count Dooku in a separatist team with General Grievous, and as you're aware, there's a unique that General Grievous has, which gives potency to droids every time that their debuffs are resisted. So the rest of my droids on the separatist team, like General Grievous or B1 or Magna, these guys are going to end up getting a lot of potency stacking over time. But since Dooku is not a droid, he's not going to have that benefit from General Grievous's leadership. So that's why I naturally tend to have him at really high potency level at 140%. And having him land those stuns and ability blocks is really really useful. So he's my next important character just because he's in one of my most important defensive teams. He's the next important character that I like to mod for potency in terms of decreasing order of speed. EP is it's okay to mod for potency and speed, but he naturally has a leadership ability which gives him potency. And if you're using him under the leader, he doesn't really need that much speed just because enemy debuffs expiring is going to end up giving him a lot of speed. So speed on the other characters also is not as important. Tarkin, I used to use him under EP. I don't anymore now that Darth Revan is out. Logray, he doesn't need as much speed because Evox, they generate a lot of turn meter on their own. But I do need a good potency set on him. So for Logray also, because I need him to land the days, I mod him fully with the six potency sets with potency on the cross as well. And then you've got Holdo, who's another character who applies mass AoE days. I like to mod her with six potency mods as well, with a potency on the cross. She's not that fast, and she doesn't need to be that fast. She gets some turn meter when used under a JTR team, but I do want her to land days because that's a useful tool to have under a JTR team. And obviously, I've got protection primaries and everything else on all my other mods for Holdo since she's a tank. And then Magna, he gets the rest of my best potency sets, just because just in case my opponent has kept Treya on defense, I like to run Thrawn and Magma to take care of that. Those are the eight tunes that I feel need to be modded for potency. So after critical damage, health set, and potency, I go over to my tanks. And these guys I like to mod for protection primaries. And so what you'll be left with after modding for your speed set, your critical damage set, your health set, and potency is you'll probably be left with your defense mods, your tenacity mods, and all of that. And all of that stuff is great for tanks. I've got a different section over here for tenacity and different for general tanks. Um, in all cases, I like to go with the protection primaries on all the tanks. And there's a certain order in which I like to go for in terms of speed. But because I'm using the top three over here in my top meta breaking teams or in my defense in a Grand Arena, I like to have these three guys the fastest. My GK obviously is going to go in either a Basti team or in the Darth Revan team. And the fast GK can be quite troublesome. So I have him at usually at 240, 245. Um, Having a fast old Ben also is pretty useful, especially in a CLS team with the C3PO and Chewie and Han. That's a really great meta team because anytime that the rebels get hit, um, old Ben is going to get turn meter. Anytime that under CLS's Zeta leadership, anytime that debuffs are resisted, um, old Ben is going to end up going to getting turn meter, and his the whole rebel team is in fact going to end up getting a lot of turn meter. So having him fast is pretty good. Similarly with Scatter Rebel Pathfinder, whether using him in a rebel team or just as a standalone tank, his basic gives out 15% turn meter all of the uh, to all of the enemy, all of your team. So that ends up speeding up your team as well. And I typically like to use him under the Admiral Akbar team, so he gets a natural 25 speed bump as well. But I like to keep these three guys at least plus 100 speed with protection primaries everywhere. And these could be either health sets or defense or tenacity. These three are the sets that I usually like to use for tanks. My next fastest are, and even though Treya is technically not a tank, I've kept him ordered with the defense sets and protection primaries ever since the Jedi Knight Revan days. So in case I need to take out a Jedi Knight Revan on offense, I like to keep my Treya tanky as well. She's got a lot of benefit there, but a little bit of speed is good on her. I like to keep her at plus 80 speed or so, not too slow also because that defeats the purpose. So I like to keep her at least at that much speed. Similarly, I've got Juhani, who I sometimes plug into a Karth team, or sometimes I in a Basti team as an off tank Jedi there. And she's her natural speed is extremely slow, so you need to mod her pretty fast to get even decent. Even if you mod her for plus 80, plus 90, you'll barely get to 200. Maybe 180 to 190 you'll get her, which is not that great of a speed. And it's really unfortunate because she's got a taunt which has got a 4 turn cooldown, and if you have her slow at the same time, then her utility gets really diminished with that. So the next best speed sets I like to give to Johanny. Chopper is a naturally fast tank. I think of all these over here, Chopper is probably the fastest. The reason I don't have my best speed sets on him is because I typically like to use Chopper in my Jedi training raid team, and he will get that initial speed bump from BB-8 any case, so he'll end up going faster than all of them in any case. And three slowest tanks that I have over here is First Order Stormtrooper and the two Empires tanks, Shore and Storm. They're all modded for protection primaries everywhere, including the arrow as well. So that's they really don't need that much speed. I prefer tenacity on the First Order Stormtrooper, and Shore is there just for the pre-taunt and nothing else. And Storm is just a plug and play tank that I like to keep. So not necessarily my best mods on these guys, but that's the order in which I like to mod them in terms of speed. And finally, I have a few characters over here. Tenacity. Tenacity sets. These three characters, in my opinion, deserve your very best tenacity sets. Um, L3, she doesn't need speed at all. She gets 15% turn meter anytime droids or scoundrels get hit. So she doesn't need any speed at all. I put protection primaries on everything for her, with the exception of the cross, where I prefer tenacity. And I have on all these three characters, I have well, actually two of them since they're gold. On Zalbar and on L3, I have a 6E tenacity cross on both of them, which gives a 35% additional tenacity. And I feel tenacity is important for all these characters, for L3 especially because you know one of the main counters to the scoundrel team is JTR. So if the JTR team is always going to get a jump on the scoundrel team. So if Jedi Training Ray applies her special, the days on the first turn, if L3 is not dazed because she has got high tenacity, that will make the team more problematic to control because anytime that the resistance team starts attacking the scoundrels or droids, uh, L3 is going to end up getting turn meters. So having L3 not dazed is extremely important. Otherwise, if she's got low tenacity, what will happen is she'll end up getting dazed, her taunt will be removed, and JTR or any other team can easily go and start targeting others in the scoundrel team and take them out very easily without even touching your L3. Because L3 only starts cleansing the debuffs from her team when she is hit. And as long as she's not hit and ignored, and if she's dazed, she's going to not pose any problem at all. So that's why it's important to have L3 with very high tenacity. Similarly, with B2, you don't want B2 getting dazed and taken out of battle. He doesn't need any speed at all because anytime that allies are hit, he ends up getting a turn meter, 100% turn meter, and he ends up going. So it's important for B2 to have really good tenacity as well. Since I use him on the General Grievous team, I actually have a balance of tenacity and potency on B2. I don't have crazy tenacity like 130% like I have on the other two, Zalbar and L3. I have about 90% tenacity and about 80 to 90% potency because I wanted to balance out landing debuffs versus resisting debuffs with B2. And Zalbar, I know some people like to have him pretty fast at 210 to 220. I used to have him fast because I wanted him to get his his taunt up fast. But these days, I prefer the tenacity build on him. I still like to keep him at least at 200, but primarily I build him for tenacity because, again, just like L3, if Zalbar is dazed, he's not going to end up um, counter attacking when he gets retribution, and that means that your mission also is not going to get to attack again. So your whole team gets completely neutralized if Zalbar gets dazed. So these three characters I would prioritize for tenacity. Obviously, tenacity on other characters, like I mentioned, your Kylo Ren or your crew or your first order stormtrooper, all that is important as well. But you mod them with other sets, not exactly tenacity sets. These guys, I wouldn't mind modding these guys with all six tenacity mods. And finally, I have one section over here for characters which benefit from crit chance. Wicket obviously is the biggest benefactor because he does a lot of good things on when he crits. He's got an AoE which gives plenty of turn meter to Evox when they crit. And even though Wicket is a really high damage dealing character, I like to mod him with six critical chance sets with as much critical chance secondaries as possible. I like to keep him decently fast as well, so my fastest critical chance sets actually go on Wicket. I have him at about 230 speed, I think. I could get him faster, but that would end up sacrificing a lot of his critical chance. Right now, I have him close to 80 to 90% critical chance, I think, because I want him critting all the time. Because that gives an absurd amount of turn meter to the Evox and has them go pretty often. So more important than having him at 216% critical damage is having him at 80 to 90% critical chance, in my opinion, because that just boosts your Ewok team like crazy. Dengar also does a lot of neat things on landing critical hits. Um, so I like to mod him for critical chance as well. I know a lot of people like to mod him for potency or protection for survivability. But this has just been working for me, the high crit chance, so I just left this at that. And Jedi Knight Anakin as well. I've put mostly crit chance on him just because when he does his AoE, if he doesn't end up critting, he ends up getting exposes. So that's the reason I think I'd originally modded him for crit chance and I haven't changed that. There are a few other characters also which benefit a lot from crit chance, but obviously those would be also crit chance and crit damage, like if you mod Spirit for crit damage, then high crit chance on her is absolutely devastating. My best 60 mods on Spirit has her using her basic for 35k to 40k, and you can mod Talzin either for crit damage or crit chance. And if you're going the sorry, crit damage or offense. And if you're going a crit damage route, then because Talzin has got such a low crit chance, you need to bump up her crit chance to at least 50 to 55% for her to be for the critical damage set to make sense on her. So that's basically the overall order in which I go to mod my characters. Now, this is obviously a very time intensive exercise. It'll probably take a few hours for you to do it. But since I only do this exercise once in a few months, I think it's well worth the effort because what it does is before every TW or Grand Arena, all I need to do is spend 15-20 minutes going through all my characters. And since I already have all of them modded the way I want and everything loaded in mod loadouts, I just need to spend 15-20 minutes going in there and applying the loadouts to each of these characters. So let me go and show you what that loadout looks like. All right. So we're here at my inventory. So what I do is when I go into manage and I go to assign loadouts, and I've created loadouts for a bunch of different things. Um, so there's obviously my arena loadout. Now, this is something which I keep tweaking just because arena is a very dynamic thing. I have a few characters over here. All my main characters, whether that is my Sith Empire team that I'm currently using on defense and offense and arena. I have them modded, all the mod loadouts for them loaded out first. Then I have three characters: Admiral Akbar, Biston, and Scarlet Rebel Pathfinder. I have their mod loadouts over here as well, just because they are an important part of my ship arena, and I want 60 mods on them to maximize their ship speeds. So I whatever 60 mods I have left after modding my character arena, I just throw it into a mod loadout for these three characters for ships. Um, Similarly, I've got a couple of other teams that I sometimes like using in the arena, and I have mod loadouts for them as well. But these eight in the front, the five character and three ship ones, those are the main ones that I use for the arena mod loadout tab. And then the rest of the tabs that I have over here, they're the ones which I use for my TW and GA. So what I like to do is I like to create a separate tab for each faction, and then I filter for that faction, and I see which characters are missing mods, and then I go ahead and since I've already created these loadouts, I go and apply those loadouts directly to them. And since I've already done this exercise once and saved all the loadouts, it's a very quick thing for me to just go in and spend 10-15 minutes and just quickly load everyone with the exact mods that I need. I've got Empire over here as well, which includes troopers. I have Evox modded the way I want. I have First Order, and then I have certain tabs for the raids as well. So in this particular case, this is the tab I use for the heroic tank as well as my pit. I uh, I like to have this team of five characters that I solo the tank with. So I like to have a separate loadout available for them as well. Then I have my Jedi for Grand Arena in TW. I have a miscellaneous tab over here as well, which has characters which don't really fit into any faction: Rex, Wampa, Visas, and Karth. Um, I have Nightsisters completely loaded mods loadout complete over here, and then I have four tabs over here for the Sith raid. Now I tend to do a lot of mod changing in Sith raid as well. I like to maximize my scores, so I have spent a lot of time creating the best mods for each phase of the Sith raid. So I have four tabs over here, which also let me change mods fast when I'm in the middle of a Sith raid, because you're always short on time. These Sith raids go really fast. So I've already loaded out the mods that I want for my characters over here, and these are the four tabs that I use when I'm in the middle of a Sith raid. Coming back to TWGA mod loadouts, these are the loadouts that I have for rebels, for resistance, one for scoundrels, for separatists, and then Sith and Sith Empire. So everything has been loaded out and made available. If I want to tweak anything, I directly go into the mod loadouts, tweak them, and make sure that there are no duplicates, and then just make sure that I put the loadout in just before any TW and GA. Once I put those loadouts in, I wait for 2 or 3 hours after the lock of GA and TW, just because mods can sometimes move around. So I wait for 2-3 hours to be safe, and then I shift my arena mods back, and then I do my arena climb. So that's basically the way I like to handle my mod loadouts. And once TW and GA mods are locked, you can forget about it for 3 to 6 days, and really don't need to worry about it. So this exercise I only need to do only when the Grand Arena or TW is just about to start. So that was a brief overview of how I like to think about remodding. And obviously, remodding an entire roster is a very time-intensive exercise, but it's something I enjoy doing. And I don't do it very often, but it's important to do, just because the meta is shifting so much and so many characters become relevant and irrelevant, that you need to at least do it once in 2-3 months to maximize the efficiency of your roster. Also, at the same time, every 2-3 months, you'll be bringing up factions to G12, and you'll be investing in new and more new factions. And it really and you can't really put your leftover mods on those ones, especially if you've got something new come up like Darth Revan, or if you're really investing in a powerful new character like Django, or someone else like that. You really need some of your best mods from some other characters to come on them. So that's why periodically I think it's a good exercise to just go and remod your whole roster. All right, so that was basically the guide that I wanted to put together. I know it went a little long, but I thought it might be useful, especially since a lot of people have asked for this. Thought it might be useful to just put a quick video out there to explain the my thought process. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if there's anything else, any other topic that you'd like to know more about, and I can think about making a video on that. All right. I will catch you guys later.